What's up, guys? Today we have Nick Fuentes debating Dean Withers on Christian nationalism.
Okay, so the subject will be, is Christian nationalism good or bad?
Okay. Well, I believe that America should have a religious government. We should have a Christian Catholic government.
You didn't like that.
And, you know, we have to face the fact that liberalism has failed. And the best example that liberalism is failing is that we're not having enough kids. The society, the civilization that doesn't have kids will cease to exist, and it will lose, and it is losing. Liberalism around the world is receding, and these more ancient, tribal, perennial cultures are thriving. Islam is the fastest growing religion. China is on the rise. Tribalism, racialism, all these things, all these revanchist, historic ideologies are on the rise, and they're all beating back liberalism because liberalism is weak. It is ineffectual. It's causing all kinds of perversity, degeneracy. People are not having kids. It's just sort of like anti-human and inimical to the human body. So, I mean, in addition to Catholicism and Christianity being true, liberalism is clearly bankrupt. Liberalism is clearly having a hard time. I think we should replace our state religion of liberalism with the state religion of Christianity. And
Yes.
I'm interested to see where Dean wants to take it, because obviously it's a huge topic, but I think we should have a Catholic country, not a liberal atheist one.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different ways that a conversation about Christian nationalism can go. I mean, I've debated people on Christian nationalism before that will concede even if Christianity's false, right? We should still be, a country that upholds Christian nationalism because it promotes better outcomes. But I think there's a couple points there that you made I'd just like to respond to real quick about declining birth rates, immigration. That's crazy. Then about, a couple of the other points that you brought up. I particularly think that Christian nationalism is bad because it doesn't allow us to effectively legislate. Given like the Christian religion, right, we are led to believe that particular things are wrong because God said so. You said that you're a Catholic. I think in the Catholic faith, you'll kind of have a different range on how bad things are. Something can be a mortal sin, a venial sin. But something that I'd say here that is a very absurd conclusion given Christian nationalism is shit like blasphemy. So like blasphemy, as defined by the Bible, is the worst sin that anyone can commit. Does that mean that people should go to jail for life for blasphemy? Well, I don't know, because we know that people should go to jail for life for murder, and if blasphemy is worse than murder, and we're operating under a system in a society with a government that legislates on the basis of the Bible and these foundational beliefs as prescribed by Christianity, are we going to start sending people to jail for blasphemy too? I don't see how you'd be able to respond to that. I don't. And then like a couple other things that we could say here. The Bible promotes very harmful, bad beliefs. I mean, 1 Samuel 15:3, God tells Saul and his men to genocide the Amalekite men, women, and girls. I bet if I was to engage in a conversation with this guy specifically about 1 Samuel 15:3, he'll end up saying that sometimes genocide's okay. Leviticus 25 verses 44 through 46, God tells the Israelites that they can own the non-Israelites as human property for life. I bet if I was to have a conversation with this guy about that topic, he'd end up saying that no, slavery hasn't always been wrong, alongside other things, right? So we could talk about how Christianity is false. We could talk about how it doesn't allow us to effectively legislate. We could talk about the absurdities that are already present in the Bible. But one last point that I'd like to bring up is if you're going to make an argument on the basis of the efficacy and the outcomes in which it would generate in society, which seemingly you started to there, well, what if we find another religion that generates better outcomes than the one that you hold to?
1 minute,
Okay,
Dean.
so if the reason that you want a Christian nation is because it will promote human well-being and happiness, people are going to be having more kids and following these commandments, they'll be doing good, no degeneracy, none of that shit. Well, what if I told you that the LDS church had even better outcomes than the Catholic church? Would you all of a sudden be in support of an LDS-led state? Probably not. Okay, right? So that's another contradiction on its own. So feel free to kind of pick and choose there, respond to the point that you want, take it away.
So you said about birth rates or immigration. Well, here's the problem. Okay, one, the people that have liberalism are killing themselves. Okay, so the people that invented liberalism, that live in liberal societies, literally and figuratively are killing themselves. They're committing suicide. They're
Well, the
dying
guy
deaths of
that you
despair.
worship
Okay, are
literally
you going to
killed
interrupt
himself.
me like 30 seconds into my rebuttal? That's crazy.
Let's
No
calm the
confidence in
interruptions down.
liberalism.
It's been good.
They
Right.
commit suicide. They die from desert despair. They're addicted to drugs, all kinds of things. They're all dying over there. Okay, we're dying in America. We're dying in Europe. And by the way, these people come from non-liberal or illiberal societies, and then their birth rate goes down. So even if you wanted to argue, oh, well, like, we could salvage liberalism with an endless supply of immigration from illiberal societies that have kids, when they get here, their birth rate goes down. And these are not liberal people. They come from illiberal places like China or Africa or Latin America. They come here, they assimilate, and within a few generations, the birth rate goes down because liberalism is suicidal. With regard to the question about efficacy and outcomes, I'm not arguing that we should have the religion with the best efficacy. I said liberalism has failed. And we know it's failed because it's committing suicide. So clearly liberalism as a system is not working. And that's why, it's such a radical notion. People think that we would have blasphemy laws or religious laws. They think it's a radical notion. It's unthinkable. The current system must be replaced. It's an imperative. It's not a question of, whether or how or anything like that. It simply must be because it will cease to exist. And so that's really the crux of the argument. Why it should be Catholicism. It's because Catholicism is true. But the point I'm trying to make is for people that say, it's so radical that we would go backwards. I would say we went backwards with liberalism as evidenced by the fact that it's not even reproducing itself. And that's a huge problem. With regard to the stuff about the Old Testament, I mean, look, the Catholic Church, Christians today are not in favor of genocide or slavery. If you want to get into that, this is just like new atheism 101. Are you an atheist? Are you an atheist or
Obviously.
something?
I'm an agnostic, but I wouldn't particularly use these verses in the Bible to say that your religion is false. I use these verses in the Bible to say that your religion is absurd.
Yeah, you're using verses from the Old Testament. We are Christians, we are not Jews, and that's literally 101 atheism. They always bring up verses from the Old Testament trying to prove the Bible is evil. Why? Because the New Testament is perfect. Because Jesus is perfect. How can they attack Jesus? They can't. And removing the context of the verses is such an homosexual way to try to win an argument. Bro, the Israelites were attacked, the women were raped, the men were killed, so God told Israel, you have to destroy the other tribes, because you're in danger of extinction. That's simple as that. That's self-defense. And obviously I'm talking about Israel of the Old Testament, not Israel of nowadays.
To say
I know,
that
wait, but I just wanted to ask you that, and then let me finish the last point. So it's very funny when atheists who have no objective source of morality, it's like, their morality is something like, hey man, just leave everybody alone.
Yeah.
What if I disagree? What if my morality says, well, I want to kill everybody or something? What if the majority of people said our morality says, well, we want to harm and we want to rape and we want to do this and that? An atheist has no God that says, well, so-and-so has the authority to say this is correct. That's a problem. And yet they have a problem with blasphemy laws. It is good to have a God that is a source of authority, that gives us our morality, that is unquestionable. With regard to the Old Testament, if you want to get into the debate about, what's bad, I would start with the question of how do you know what's bad?
Hey, Nick, I'm sorry
You
to cut
claim
you
that
off.
certain
Nick,
things are bad. You don't know where good and bad comes from. And how do we know the good and bad are even real? If we're all material, if we're only atoms and we don't have souls, why does it matter what happens to any of us? I mean, what is justice? Is there such a thing as the conceptual? If there is only matter, where is the conceptual? Can we see it? Can we feel it? Is it located somewhere?
One of those points?
Let's let you respond now.
Well, and I'm making a point here. I'll wrap it up quickly. So for an atheist to point to the Old Testament and say, well, how could a God who does these things be so immoral? I would say to the godless, what is moral and who are we if we're not just stardust being rearranged? I mean, slavery, these things, these are conceptual. It can only exist with a real philosophical viewpoint, not with this kind of lame, like, Sky Daddy isn't real sort of stuff. So, there's just a lot of assumptions there that kind of need to be interrogated.
Okay, Dean,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
before
what
you go,
needs to be
Dean,
interrogated is the fact that you asked me, well, what do I do with a group of people who likes to murder and kill others? What if God said that? I think that's a question that we need to ask.
Then we would have to do it.
Wait, really? If God told you to and kill a baby, would you do it?
What?
Well, God would never do that because God is good and those things are evil.
Yeah.
Okay, so raping and killing is evil. So when he commanded people to kill the babies in Malachi in 1 Samuel 15:3, that was evil?
God is telling us to rape and kill babies right
Never.
now?
So specifically about killing, in 1 Samuel 15:3, he did command Saul and his men to kill the Amalekite baby.
Look how disingenuous this fucking feminine atheist is. God never told to rape and kill anyone. You're a fucking disgusting demon.
Babies? He told them to rape babies?
No, to kill babies.
Well, yeah, then if I were one of those guys, I would have done it, but not rape them.
Okay, so if God commanded you to kill a baby today, would you do it?
Yes.
Okay, so why would you kill a baby, but you wouldn't rape a baby?
Because that would be cruel or something.
Wait, is killing a baby not cruel?
In the Old Testament, it worked differently.
No, I'm talking
That's
about
a fallen
you said,
world.
You particularly said that you would kill a baby today if God asked you, but you
If
wouldn't
God
rape
told us-
a baby if God asked you. So how come
Not
you
rape.
kill a baby today but not rape a baby?
Because the context of the Old Testament is that it's a fallen world, and that's the context you're talking about. You said that in the Old Testament,
Dude, we're not
God
talking
said
about
to-
dude. Please
Hang
answer
on.
my
Yeah,
question.
we are.
This
We
is a
literally
damning
are.
non-answer.
Well,
You
if we're
told
not
me
talking
today-
about wait. If we're not talking about
Give
the
me
Old
30
Testament,
seconds.
what are we talking about?
About the fact that you told me today if God commanded you to kill a baby, you would do it. And then I followed that up by asking you if God commanded you to rape a baby, would you do it? And you said
God
no,
wouldn't do that because
that's
it's evil.
cruel. Okay, so killing a baby today, you would do if God commanded it, but a baby today, you wouldn't do because God wouldn't command it.
Well,
because
you-
it's evil.
first of
are you
all-
making the implication that killing
first
a
of
baby
all-
today isn't evil?
No. What you said is that in
Okay,
the
so
Old
then you
Testament.
wouldn't do that either, right?
Well, hang
This is
on.
seemingly a
Let's
contradiction.
rewind. Let's rewind because you said in the Bible God says to rape babies. Can you just
Yeah.
I
retract
said
that?
kill
Because that never
babies.
happened. No,
I
if you
said kill
rewind.
babies.
Yeah, okay. People can rewind the clip. You said
Yeah.
killing babies because you got a
We'll-
little, and
we'll
people
clear
because
this
you
up
got a
so
little
easily.
ahead of yourself. Because you got a
Nick,
little
we'll
ahead of
clear this
yourself.
up Nick,
that
I will
never
literally
happened.
clear this up so easily.
Okay.
If I said God commanded Saul and his men to babies in 1 Samuel 15:3, I misspoke. In 1
Okay,
Samuel
thank you.
15:3,
Thank you, yeah.
God commands Saul and his
But see,
men
that's
to
the
kill
problem.
babies. But you are not answering my question. This is a damning
am.
non-answer. Every single person watching the stream can see that you said if God commanded you to kill a baby today, you said you would do it. Can you affirm
Can we
that
be
fact?
serious? Can we be serious for a second?
We are being dead serious. Can you affirm the fact that you said if God told you to kill a baby, you do
Can
it?
we be serious? Can we grow up?
Why won't you
So-
answer my question?
Well, because we're talking about the Old Testament, are we not?
Dude, we're talking about today. How many times do I need to say that?
You're talking about the Old Testament. You're citing the Old Testament. You're talking about a specific verse in the Old Testament.
Oh my God,
You
this
can,
is
you
crazy.
can look. You can giggle.
Phil, I
But we're,
specifically
can we
asked you-
confirm that we're talking about the Old Testament? Is that
No.
correct?
That is
What are we
not
talking
correct.
about?
Exactly. I'll tell you exactly what we're talking about. We are talking about the fact that I asked you a damning hypothetical question. I asked you
It's
if
not.
God
It's a
one
cheap.
moment. Do you mind if I have
it's
30
a
seconds?
cheap context. No. It's
You're
a cheap
interrupting me because
context
you don't want me to
denial.
talk because you know that you're losing.
Yeah, because the Old Testament says bad things in it. I know. I'm a new atheist, and I just discovered. Here's my answer to your question, if you allow me to answer it. I know you want a cheap gotcha question, but let's add a little context. The Old Testament
Please,
takes
away.
place in a fallen world. We live in a fallen world because we have free will. Okay, God created human beings. Human beings disobeyed God and sinned. Because we disobeyed God and sinned, we have the penalty of death, war, shame, guilt, pain at birth, all these things. In the fallen world, people kill. In the fallen world, people kill, people lie, cheat, steal. Cain kills Abel. In the world, the fallen world, before Jesus Christ arrived, it was a world with slavery and warfare and iniquity. It is in this context that God commanded the chosen people to kill certain tribes to establish their survival, to secure a line for the coming of the Messiah. God does not approve of killing because it says in the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. God does not approve of rape because it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, and so on and so forth. So God obviously does not support killing. Oh, would you kill and rape a baby? No. But in the Bible, God prescribes laws and specific actions at the beginning of the world, which was fallen without Christ, without a Savior, in sin, for the survival of the chosen people. So the rules worked a little bit differently in the Old Testament. It doesn't mean that, and of course, taking a life in and of itself, hang on, there's a difference everybody knows between killing and murder. If I go and murder you for no reason, that's immoral. If I kill in self-defense or self-defense of my children, it's a different story. God commanding the people of the Old Testament is an extraordinary exception based on the fallen old world. That's one. Two, when Jesus Christ arrives, he fulfills the law and saves people from hell. Before Jesus Christ arrived, nobody could even go to heaven, and it was a world of iniquity. And Jesus Christ changed and created this modern world that we're living in. So now here's the thing. God is the authority. If God commands us to, look, I know it's a complicated issue. You can't fit it into a TikTok where you do the Destiny drive-by and say, Trump's making your grocery prices higher. But it's actually a complicated issue where we're talking about evil, the existence of evil. So does that mean that God is not an authority? Of course not. God is an authority. Would God command us to do those things today? Probably not. But if he did, in a hypothetical scenario, we'd have to trust God if we truly believe in God. Otherwise, you would say something like, we know more than God, or God is not good, or we're better than God. And that negates the concept of a God or good itself. So that's my answer to your, oh, so when you say killing babies, it ties into like abortion policy. It's just like cheap, low IQ, left-wing bullshit. But anyway, go ahead.
Cool, thank you. So I hear everything that you just said. I will give that a great response. I sure did. But before I give that a response, I wanted to take a brief moment to go back to the question that I was attempting to get you to answer prior. I understand that you just kind of gave me the story of the Old and New Covenant. We had different rules before, the Messiah came back down, created the New Covenant, whatever. I get it. Thank you. Okay? But the question that I asked you was, if God commanded you to kill a baby, would you do it? You said yes. I then asked you, Nick Fuentes, if God commanded you to rape a baby, would you do it? And you said, no, that's too cruel. If you'd like to take 15 seconds to kind of clear up that gap, like, does that make the implication that killing a baby isn't
I
cool?
answered the question.
You didn't.
Okay. Is this a debate about Christian nationalism, or is this like a weird new atheist? By the way, why do you think killing is wrong? Where do you get that information from?
So first of all, I don't think that killing's inherently wrong. I think that murder is wrong. Okay, the unjustified.
Oh, okay, so you agree with me then?
Right. And then what I'd say here about murder is that's just going to be driven given my intuitions. I'm a subjectivist. We all know this, but I think you are too. Would you agree with me?
You're subjectivist.
Would you agree with me that objectivism can be defined as like a stance independent, like truth?
It's an independent truth? What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Like a stance independent truth. That's what it means for
a stance independent truth?
Yeah.
Of independent truth, or that there is independent truth?
Okay. Wow.
So the sentence construction doesn't make sense.
Okay. So like in philosophy, right? When we're referencing terms such as moral objectivism or moral subjectivism, we define objectivism given like when I say murder is wrong, that is true independent of any stance, of any act, or of any mind. Okay. When I say
I understand what you're saying. I don't understand the construction. I'm not. You're like mumbling to yourself. Yeah, no, I believe. Yeah, subjectivism is that there's an independent truth. Yes.
Okay. So is morality independent of God?
No. No, because God is morality. God is good.
So a morality is subject to God.
Okay. Ooh, could God create a box so heavy he couldn't lift it? Yeah, that's great. So if you believe that killing is not...
I didn't give you a contradiction. I just showed you that you're a moral subjectivist.
I know. Thank you. So,
that's cute, huh?
So where do you believe that killing is wrong then? Now, so you believe it's subjective. You don't believe it's absolutely wrong.
10 minutes.
Yeah, right?
What's that, Adin?
10 minutes, guys.
Great, yeah. So I mean, I could go ahead and give you a little bit of an overview of my stance here on morality. So metaethically, I'm just gonna be a subjectivist, a relativist. When we like to reference like why I think things are wrong, it's just gonna be driven my intuitions. I mean, like we could talk about different moral frameworks. I myself am what is called a threshold deontologist, meaning that I believe that like particular things can be always wrong, but meanwhile we should consider like the consequences of others. It's pretty interesting.
Is the Holocaust wrong?
Yeah, the Holocaust was wrong.
Objectively?
No, because objective truths in the context of morality doesn't exist. Nothing's
in your opinion it's wrong
because that standard doesn't exist.
In your opinion, it's wrong.
And in accordance with my index standard, it's wrong. Yeah, but I mean, just saying, you believe in subjectivism, but I'm gonna like counter that by asking you, is it objectively wrong? That doesn't really achieve anything. I could literally.
What is your qualification?
Was the Holocaust objectively wrong?
Of course, it was wrong. Of course,
but you just agreed with me that morality is subject to God.
Because morality is God. It's identity, not subjectivity.
Wait, God is identical to morality?
Yes, God is good. God is the good.
Okay, so when I say that like hugging your mom is good, I'm just saying that hugging your mom is God?
Yes.
Okay, so can you just say that for me? Like every single time you kiss your wife?
Listen, there is no good if there is no God. God is the source of good, and everything you can think of that is objectively morally good, you can find an example of it in the Bible. Why? Because the Bible is the Word of God. Every first world country was founded and built by Christian values and traditions. That's why every law of the state was written thousands of years earlier in the Bible.
That's a really God thing to do.
Love is good. An act of love that expresses love is good. God is the good. God is being itself. We are participating in being.
Oh wait, now we have
Yes.
some more issues here, because earlier you told me that God would never command you to like a baby because that's evil, but now you're saying that God is identical to goodness, meaning if God is all powerful in the sense that he could do anything that's logically possible and he's identical to goodness, why wouldn't he be able to tell you to grape a baby?
What?
Did you say grape?
I did. TikTok words. I know.
Well,
I
God
stream on there
also
for TikTok
tells us
today.
that God's plan is very complex.
Why won't you answer
and-
my question?
Because these are just like low IQ.
No, that's not a low IQ point at all. We're
it
literally
is.
talking about what you think goodness is, what its derivative, and how it apply to your.
Because if you kill somebody in self-defense, you're obviously defending yourself, your family, your country. But in any context, rape cannot be justified, okay? In any situation, rape is wrong.
God. Actually, we could extrapolate this out to the problem of evil as a whole, right? Like you actually said earlier that you think that the Holocaust is objectively wrong. Would you say all
If it
things
happened, if it happened at all, by the way. But yeah,
Okay,
if, let's
so,
theoretically,
Adin.
if
What
it,
the
in
fuck?
theory.
Hey,
No, I'm kidding. Of course
come
it
on,
happened.
Nick.
Of course it happened.
Wait, do you see what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
dude,
Like,
Nick,
no,
what the
like, you see
fuck,
the
bro?
We're talking to, Adin? Yeah, this guy's over here saying,
Oh my
if the
gosh.
Holocaust happened,
Oh my
but then he
gosh.
asked me if the Holocaust is objectively wrong. Get a load of this joker. So I just want to ask you a fucking quick
Get a load
question.
of this joker.
Oh, yeah, get a load of
How
this
about
joker. I wanna
another
ask-
joke?
how
What do you
about
get?
You need to unmute your mic.
Get a load of this.
You want to
Okay.
tell me another joke? Keep talking. I'm going to go ahead and ask you a
No,
question. Would you
that's very
say
good.
all things considered that the Holocaust is wrong?
If it were real, yes. Yeah.
Oh my
absolutely.
God,
And it is, and it is, and it absolutely
you're
is.
so fucking spineless. How the fuck can you sit in front of 45,000 people and say that the most
Oy
well-documented thing that has ever
Is
happened
it?
in history might not have happened? I want to ask you a question. How the fuck do you know that Jesus resurrected from the dead, but you don't know if the Holocaust happened?
Shroud
Please
of
answer
Turin.
that question.
Shroud of Turin. Shroud of
Shroud
Turin.
of Turin, that's been taken by
100%.
the Shroud of Turin is a more reliable standard for evidence than the 250
Than the
independent
thing that
sources
didn't
that would
happen?
justify that the Holocaust exists.
Listen, this isn't a Holocaust
Wait,
debate.
also
Let's
the
try to
Shroud of
stay
Turin-
focused.
No,
This is
I
a
wanna-
Christianity debate.
No, let's talk about it. The Shroud of Turin specifically, we had 4 different group of scientists take different
I'm
parts of
saying
it.
6
None of them
million's a
could date
lot.
it back to anything after 400 years AD.
I'm just
How
saying it's
can
a
you
lot of people.
No. I want you to tell me how the fuck you know that Jesus rose from the dead with a lack of any historical evidence that exists from
Hey, calm
during his
down.
lifetime from a first-person
Calm
experience.
down.
Yet
This is
you
a
don't
factual
think the
debate.
Holocaust happened.
This is a factual debate, Kamala. Tampon
Go-
Tim.
Yeah,
hey,
go for the
listen,
emotions
Tampon
'cause you
Tim,
know that
this
you're
is
losing
about
the argument.
facts. 1, Shroud of Turin. Impossible to create other than with Jesus ascending into heaven. That's 1. 2,
What?
all I'm saying is that's a lot of bodies. Unless
Wait.
we forgot the technology to cremate them. Look, I don't know. I wasn't there, and you
Wait,
weren't
the
either.
Shroud of Turin. Wait. So you're telling me that it was absolutely impossible for some
Impossible.
impossible for the Shroud of Turin to exist? Then please tell me
you don't
why.
know the facts.
Then please tell
You
me
don't know
why
the facts.
Tell me why the earliest carbon dating on the Shroud of Turin that we've gotten from the material used to create the Shroud of Turin is like from 1200 AD.
That's not true. That's not even true.
It's either 400
You can
or
fact check
1200
that.
AD.
That's not even true. They just did a new study on it and they proved it's
Oh,
100% real.
They proved it's 100% real.
It's
So please-
100%. It's like super real. That's 1.
Okay. Okay.
2,
Okay.
we have secular historians that testify that
Secular
Jesus was a
historians.
real person and was
Yeah, we do.
crucified.
We do.
Josephus, Tacitus. We also
Wait,
have.
Josephus isn't secular. Let's get our facts straight. He was a Jewish
Okay, he was
historian.
Jewish. Okay, he was Jewish. I mean, non-Christian. Thank you for the clarification. Are we
Was
good?
secular mean non-Christian?
Are we good? You know what I meant. I mean, if you were to say that a Christian source is biased, then arguably a non-Christian source would be unbiased. That's the point. Josephus, Tacitus. But you also have the earliest versions of the gospel stories going back to the 1st century. The earliest fragments of it go back to the 1st century. And you have people that went to their death. That's part of why Christianity spread. They went to their death. The Christians were martyred, testifying that they saw a resurrected Jesus. Liars don't go to their death testifying that something happened if it didn't. Certainly not, 11 out of 12 of them, or every single one of them. And that is the basis of how it spread in the ancient world. So, I mean,
There's a
so
couple
there's
issues we
that.
can
There's
get
the
into.
Shroud of Turin. There's non-Christian historians. There's the fragments of the gospel.
Yeah, so
There's the
the Shroud of
prophecies that are fulfilled by Jesus in the New
So
Testament.
the Shroud of Turin, that shit just goes straight out the fucking window. We have carbon
Doesn't.
dated it. Not a piece of it dates back to when Jesus was alive in accordance
Not
with
true.
Josephus and Tacitus, which you reported. Then give
Carbon
me a
dating is
source.
flawed.
Oh, okay.
Carbon dating is flawed. And
so
that's not true.
It's earlier than it is, but we just don't know
that's
it.
not true. Well, one, it's not real because carbon dating says that like dinosaurs.
Then
are
how
real.
do we know that it was from
And
Jesus?
two, there was a recent study done.
How do we know it's from Jesus?
There was a recent study that was done that showed that it literally would not even be possible using the technology at the time to create a forgery. So it had to have been created by something with luminosity that just didn't exist back then for it to imprint throughout the entire shroud. They didn't have that kind of technology back then.
Wait, I have a question.
It's impossible to create it any other way.
Do you mind if I ask you a question here? Okay, so I like this argument. Let's just go ahead and say that you're right. It was impossible to create without some sort of divinity. Jesus Christ is a prophet of the Islamic religion. Can you please give me any reason to believe that Christianity is true more so than Islam being true?
That's just a stupid question.
That this luminosity
because,
could be granted either Islam being true
do you
or
know what
Christianity
Muslims
being true?
Let me ask you this question. Do you know what Muslims believe about Jesus Christ and the crucifixion? Can you tell me?
Prophet of God. He didn't actually die on the cross. Someone else stepped in his shoes.
So what was the Shroud of Turin? Do you know?
Oh, it was over him in the burial.
So how would we know Islam isn't true? Well, let's see. If he wasn't actually crucified, then how would they lay the shroud over his body and his soul leave to make the imprint? So you don't even know what you're talking about.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. Because given the Islamic
to work
religion,
it out on the fly, doesn't even know the order of how could the Muslim Jesus leave the Shroud of Turin imprint if he was never crucified and then therefore
because what did they say about the person that was crucified?
Hello?
What did they say about the person that was crucified? Who did he look like? Who did he present as?
But he wasn't Jesus, so he wouldn't have ascended into heaven and left the luminosity. He was a lookalike.
Oh, that's terrible.
You could say that, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, wait, I don't know.
Normal people, they said it was a body double, someone who looked like Jesus. Normal people don't leave a luminous imprint on the shroud they put on them at the point of death. So the lookalike wouldn't have done that.
Wait, I'm just curious. Could you give me the study?
I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but it was recently completed.
Sure, I would love to.
You should investigate it. You'd probably become a Christian if you're being objective.
Hey guys, let's do Hey, real quick, let's do a 2-minute closing statement. We're gonna start with you, Nick. We're gonna get on to the next topic. Go ahead.
Sure. So, the good news is we just had a platform to demonstrate the historicity of the resurrection of Jesus. You do have real archaeological evidence like the Shroud of Turin. You have the Gospels. You have the secular historians. No serious historian would testify that Jesus wasn't real or didn't live or wasn't crucified. And if Christianity thread throughout the Roman Empire, it's because of the well-documented martyrdom of the disciples of the early church. If you would go to your death testifying that a lie or a fabrication didn't happen, then maybe you believe they all faked it. I think that you go to your death only if you saw something true. And even still, people won't tell the truth if they're afraid of the mafia. You'd only go to your death telling the truth if it was God in the flesh. So I think that's just all obvious. With all that being said, we should have a Catholic government. We all have a conscience. The moral law comes from God. It's also written on our hearts, and we know it. And that's where our intuition comes from. The subjective idea that we get from rationality or empiricism that murder is wrong, that rape is wrong, the same objections agnostics and atheists raise against the Bible. And the thing is about the Old Testament, if people are turned off by that, it really just amounts to the problem of evil itself. Evil exists in the world that was created by a good God. This is answered by the philosophical concept of the privation of evil. Prior to the coming of Jesus Christ, it was a world without the good, and therefore it was evil, and thus there was no mercy, compassion, those sorts of things. But it's a very complicated topic. I hope people aren't turned off when they hear, bad things happen in the ancient world, therefore there can be no God. It's obviously false. So that's just the long and short of the whole Christian debate distilled.
So yeah, as we expected, Nick completely destroyed Din. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree or disagree. Leave a like if you want to. Christ is King, and God bless you.